Hey, what's up, Canada and beyond? Welcome back. It is Friday, August 16th. We are back. It's Bankers, Bandits, Bullion, and Bucks with Bryce, our resident financial whisperer, and we're going to get into all of that in just a second. But we'll get Bryce here, up in here. I don't want to bring him up until I got a little bit of levity to give some of the folks out there on Rumble. If you go into the Rumble chat, if you're following us up on Rumble, and I'm doing this for those folks over there, I have added a whole cast of unique exclusive emotes and instructions up in the top of the chat that you guys will have the most amount of fun we can still creatively express under this new tyranny that we're experiencing here in Canada. And that's exactly where I'm going to bring Mr. Wade in, because holy snapping a-holes, Batman, has things gone sideways. And maybe I should start tonight with, after last week's get together, with saying that we will not be held financially accountable or responsible for any opinions expressed on our show in whatever level of contempt or disgust that they may have. And we are not racist, homophobic, xenophobe, white nationalist, Nazis, or any other such thing.
Oh, did we get some backlash? Did I say a boo boo?
No,
Are we getting
but
canceled, bro? Do I got to apologize? Because I won't.
Well, I'm sure, guaranteed, that there's going to be somebody out there that we're going to be able to offend if we talk about anything realistic. And I don't think we we have any choice. Not that we would, anyways. But this is just the kind of, if you're not laughing at the insanity going on, you will want to throw yourself off of a bridge. So this is just kind of how I'm trying to get through Friday. This is one of those, like those memes. What did you do this week? And the chickens are, he's all frazzled up. I survived.
Yeah.
So where do you want to start? We're trying to get into the habit of looking at week by week what was happening with things like the dollar and gold and silver, and then get into why they're going mentally insane. So I don't know. You want to start with some of that? What do people kind of that are watching that? What are they noticing and seeing this week? I guess to start off with.
Yeah, let's start with kind of an update on the market because it's bad. So let's start there. So let me just share my screen here, which is there. There we go. So I'm just going to give everybody a kind of a quick update on silver and gold. So I've talked a lot on this channel about the rising prices of both. Precious metals is what we do. Well, there's a reason for it. And precious metals are usually an indicator of what's happening in relation to everything else going on in the world for a variety of reasons. But one of them is that it's a safe haven when people are like, hey, the markets are too crazy. I want some safety. Get me out of here. Give me some gold and silver, right? That's typically what happens just before and right after major economic things happen in history. Okay, so just before there was the 1929, there was a slight uptick because a whole bunch of people were positioning themselves for the collapse. Same thing happened in 2008, and then after you see these major events, it skyrocketed because John Q. Public was like, "Oh shit, that's a good idea," and then they all went and did it at the same time. And so we still haven't hit that yet, but demand and the price for precious metals and in particular gold is going up significantly. So silver's up 2.5% today. So we're pretty much back to where we were at the kind of the top, which is this one. Yeah. So the top that we hit was basically 32, right? And we came down all the way to, this is where it was sitting kind of as an average, 22, 23, somewhere in there. So we came back down a bit. This was the opportunity to buy the dip because, well, that's what happened. So now we're starting to trend back up again, and gold looks even worse, which is gold continuous contract. So this is the all-time high for gold now. 25.46. Well, 25 something. It probably hit 25.50 over the day, but this is significantly higher. And kind of when I talk to people about what's happening in the economy, if you look back from year to date, right, we were down at 2000 And if we can go back a little bit further than that, yeah. So in the last 3 years, it's been 1,700, 1,600. It bottomed out at 1,800 at the end of last year. Yeah, right here, 1850. And so we've already seen basically almost a 40% rise in the price of gold in the last year. That should shock people, right? Right. So this is. I was explaining this today to a financial friend of mine, and she's deals with clients on a daily basis. And what the majority of people in the finance industry are not talking about is the price of gold, World War III, the global instability, the economic data that's coming out on a daily basis. Like, it just blows my mind how little people discuss these actual things that are going to affect their portfolio. So here's something that everybody that has a portfolio out there can go and ask their financial advisor. What do you think of gold? Why is it so high? And is it a good investment? And if they say no, they don't know what to talk about.
This is a great comment here
That's
from
a great
Mountain Man
question.
61. I would have no idea how to answer that, but
I do.
that's a really great question.
That is a great question. I'll show you how to figure this out. So one of the things that I'm doing in it, which is directly related to this, is I'm investing in silver, and here's why. So we got the number of 2546 right now. Silver's at basically 2,900. So 2546 divided by essentially 29. So this is the ratio. This is the ratio of gold to silver right now. Okay. So the average ratio of gold to silver throughout history is somewhere around 40. Roughly 40, goes down, goes up. So we're at near 90 right now, right? And so if the price of gold continues to go up, the ratio of silver to gold usually has to follow it. So usually gold goes first and it does whatever it does, and then
Right.
then silver like explodes. And so this
Kind
is
of
what a lot of people,
snaps up to catch up.
right? And so if we do the ratio, so what would the ratio be from 2540? So 2546 divided by, let's call it 40 as an average. So if the ratio was higher, this would be the price of silver with an average ratio. So typically, in bull markets like this, a lot of people invest in silver first, right? Which is what I'm doing. And then when the ratio comes down to what it should be, which is somewhere around 40 to 50, something like that, maybe 60 at the most, then I sell some silver and get into gold, right? So gold is still a good investment no matter what, because it's for a variety of reasons. Won't go into all of them right now because it takes a while. But I'm getting into silver first, not only because it's a smaller transaction size. So if I actually have to use it, I have a whole bunch of different silver coins instead of one big chunk of gold that's worth a whole lot of money, right?
And for me, I'm always looking, trying to look at things more pragmatically, because I live
Yep.
in the one step removed from street life, basically. So when I think about what's coming and when I look at what's coming down the pipe, transactions in the real world outside of the collapse are still going to be feasible and easier even with silver coins with in that ratio than gold coins, unless you're buying major significant purchases. When if we should have a financial apocalypse coming up soon, a pocket full of silver is just going to be a little bit more useful than a pocket full of gold.
Yeah, and
In
and
my
here's the
opinion.
other thing. Yeah, I agree. And here's the other thing that's kind of directly related to this in a different avenue, is that Australia right now is passing digital ID laws, right? So that you will have to use your digital ID to access the internet, which also means that you're silenced unless you adhere to whatever they're telling you to do, right? This is the next step of what they're trying to do. And the reason why gold and silver is important, and I'm probably gonna say this every single time so everybody gets to really understands this. There's 4 ways to make a transaction: barter, gold and silver, fiat currency, which is debt, and then digital ID, digital currencies, and cryptocurrency. Those are the only 4 ways you can make a transaction with somebody else, right? So if you don't want to be beholden to the government with debt or beholden to the central bank digital currencies, you need gold or silver or something to trade with somebody else to get the resources that you need. That's why I always tell people, go get the resources that you need now when they're still available and they're still relatively cheap, before you think about getting gold and silver, because gold and silver is an intermediary. It's an opportunity for profit now, but it's the purpose is protection and being used as an intermediary for other transactions, right? And to be a store of wealth.
Okay, there's another question here that's a quick one for you to answer while I pull up this site here for a second to address Richard French's question here. I can tell you, Richard, and I'm taking, Bryce's lunch here, but at the end of the day, it was somebody that watched our show contacted uh, Bryce's partner in this over on my website at the New World Precious Metals. You click on that button, it will take you directly to a little form where you can book an appointment and you will talk to these guys. And I've had some folks message me back. I have no idea who they are or where they were, but that was directly their response. Thank you for helping us convert a whole bunch of lira into precious metals. So that's a props to you, Bryce, and you can speak to that if you want to address this other one as well. But yeah, sorry, I had to take the opportunity to the segue to pull up the best way to get the answers. It's a free call. Go over there, click on the website, get talking to those guys, and you'll be able to get answers, the specific answers to your questions. This is a broad spectrum podcast, and but yeah, really good stuff there. So hope that is good.
Yeah, so let me touch on the lira, and then I'll share the price of Canadian gold and silver in CAD. So liras can be converted to precious metals. That is an option. So we work with Questrade to accomplish that. So you can move your lira or other registered account over to Questrade, and then we can take it from there and help you get into gold and silver to protect it if you want to. There is some restrictions on that. So just reach out to the website. We can send you information on that. Warren's really good on that. He's my partner on that. And yeah, we can definitely help you out with that. So the short answer is yes, you can.
Exactly. Awesome. And the other question, Canada versus, and that's the other site you got pulled up here.
Yeah, so this is kind of one of the companies that we work with too. So so a lot of people ask me, hey, what if I don't have $5,000? Can I still get gold and silver? Yes, you can. Just go to silvergoldbull.ca. They're a fantastic resource. They'll deliver right to your door. Really good company. We work with them a lot. They're what we use for retail. One of our main people that we use for retail. We can generally save people a little bit of money on the silver. Not so much on gold because the margins are so thin, it basically doesn't matter. But if you do want something and you don't have $5,000 or more to come talk to us, just go and get whatever you want off the website. They're great. And this is what I would recommend if you wanted to go and get some silver as an example.
And if they want to watch spot prices.
Yeah. So right at the top here, these are the spot prices. So this is silvergoldbull.ca. So they always have this ticker running. So this basically tells you the price of the four precious metals, which is gold, silver, platinum, and palladium. And all four of them are up right now. So we got 34.35, so $3,400 for gold for 1 ounce, and then just under $40 for a silver ounce.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So hope that answers everybody's questions out there. I love it, guys. Keep them coming. This is why we're doing this. We're both doing what we do, not because we dreamt of being podcast stars. It was about helping our communities get their poop in a group and protect themselves. And there's a lot to that. And thank you for this comment, little farmer. That's a great thing to do, because you may end up, if you got extra food, with a great big bucket of silver.
Yeah. And this is why I talk about this all the time. Like literally every single person that I talk to now, I state this as the priority. So number one is you need food. Number two is you need protection. Then you can talk about protecting your wealth with gold and silver. So gold and silver is at minimum the third thing that you should think about if you're trying to prepare for what's coming, right? Because it doesn't matter how much wealth you have. If you don't have any food, you die. So prevent that first.
All right, so now let's this is a good foundation for everybody to kind of get take a breath on where we're at with some of those things. Now let's get into what makes those things go from stupid to stupider in those regards. And I cannot help but want to start at the biggest single planetary interrupter that we've experienced in the last decade, and that's starting with the conversation with Musk and Trump that with over 1 billion views in 24 hours shattered what the collective world's combined mainstream mercenaries could have ever dreamt of getting for reach, and have really thrown a wrench and disrupted the old stick in the front wheel of the bicycle, per se, on the narrative on the international space and stage. How has that affected things, or is that something that you're just watching and waiting to see how it's going to impact stuff? Because I mean, I just skimmed through the lower levels of things, and it seems to me like we're getting more. I'm seeing more countries going other directions than investing in what we're doing over here, which has got to have the stock markets in a tither.
Yeah, can you bring up my screen for a second?
Oh,
I think this.
of course.
Yeah, I've got a meme for everything now. So this quote by George Orwell kind of encapsulates what's happening with Elon Musk, Trump, Twitter, kind of just in general. So all tyranny is real through fraud and force, but once the fraud is exposed, they must rely exclusively on force. So this is what's happening in England right now. They're basically in a civil war now. The government has gone full communism. Like, they're literally arresting people for posting online, and it's just, oh yeah, here for that comment. Yeah, we're right here. So if you can't tell, this is $50 trillion of Zimbabwe, and they actually had this. So there's $100 trillion notes of Zimbabwean dollars. And so this comment is kind of what happens. So if government fails, which is what we are right here, this is the Federal Reserve notes. If this fails, it goes to hyperinflation, and then you got what you got. And this is why I tell people, gold and silver, right, is the beginning of this whole process, right? And eventually it circles back around. So I don't want things to collapse, but I think they will, because we have too many morons running the show, and we have too many people that are unaware of what's happening, and too many people are sheep, and things just don't work if everybody's an idiot.
Well, I think people here in Canada are going to get blindsided really, really quickly. Some stuff that I've been talking about in interviews outside of Canada lately, and they when they hear just these couple of little facts, they gasp, and they cannot even process it. And the one that scares me right now, that I think there's a couple of big things that are going to impact stuff coming out of Canada. Other than that, everything existentially is what's going to change things at life as we know it here the most. But we're in a situation here where I think the latest report said that 42% of Canadians work in the public sector, work for the government at some level, provincial all the way to federal. And
I don't think that's possible. Like the Chinese Communist Party, even they're like at like 5 or 10%. I don't think that's possible.
It's just ridiculous. But my point is, if you start to factor in all of the people that the government subsidizes in their wages, which is almost every new Canadian that comes here is being subsidized in their wages. If they decide to flip the switch to the universal basic income at the point of a financial collapse and the CBDCs, I think that's at that point almost a shoe-in that Trudeau is counting on. That's why he's so dang confident about moving forward with his thing. Is he thinks that he has survival ability, the carrot. That's how he's got it locked in and confirmed. The unions are going to absolutely go with it, and the unions in Alberta is basically the single largest employer. So if you take and put all of that into scope as who's committed to dependence on the government, and they flip that switch, I think we might be in deep trouble, folks.
Yeah, and there's definitely something to be said for the way that our country operates. I mean, a lot of what's happening is literal communism, because it's wealth redistribution. Hey, give us all your tax money and we'll go and do stuff with it over there. Like, hey, you're going to give us 2/3 of all of your income or all of your profit from your investments. Like, these people are insane, man. Like, there's no words left for this other than these people are idiots and insane. Like, that's it. Right? There's an intention behind it as well, obviously, because it's communism, right? But these people are not smart because they don't do math. They're trying to hide and obfuscate all of the actual math. And somebody said in the chat, follow the money. Well, yeah, it's our money. How do we not know where it's gone? What are we talking about here?
But this is why I scream about it so much, and I've really been able to, and this is where it comes down to triggering people sometimes, no matter what, because when I bring up that all of Canada has collectively accepted basically communism, as you said, that wealth redistribution. The instant they rebranded that as equalization payments, we we accepted basically the implementation of communism in our country, as we know. It's just a fancy label, and we've been susceptible to that for a very long time. Last night we covered, or was it the night before? We've been covering a lot of big contentious stories, shall we say, but the overlap is I completely whiffed on that one.
Happens. Well, here, let's just put this into stark contrast. So bring up this. This is what it comes down to, right? There's two sides in this conflict now, right? And only two sides. It's authoritarianism and freedom. That's it. There's the radical Islamists, there's the communists, there's the oligarchs. They all want authoritarianism in various different ways for various different people, but authoritarianism nonetheless. Everybody else, if you don't want to be a slave to somebody else's idiotic nonsense, well, you care about freedom then, right? That means that you have to support people that are talking about freedom. Anybody that's pro-censorship, anybody that's pro-communism, anybody that's pro-attacking farmers, or like that's pro-war, all these idiots, like they're all on the same side of you should do what I say because I said so. And if you disagree, you get arrested, right? Like we have a civil war in England. And the government is against the native population of English people. That is insane. But it's happening all across the West, right? Like all of these people that are in favor of open borders, that's another example of people that don't care about freedom. Because like if those people are valuable, why wouldn't they just stay there and help their own country? How does it make sense that they come here when there's no jobs, when we're facing a recession and we don't have any place for them and we don't have any money that we're paying for them to be here? It's so many levels of stupid that it just infuriates me to no end, right? But all you have to do is do the math. Like, how much of my money is going to this retarded, stupid idea that you say we have to do, and what are we getting for that action, right? So questions, answers, actions, results, choices, right? That's the process. So what result are you getting for the action of taking my money and putting it somewhere else, right? What is the result of that, right? And if you look at that clinically and look at the results, it's all stupid, right? The only reason that we're in this situation now is because we don't have a mechanism in our political system to remove literal morons from destroying the country. That's what
morons and crooks,
Yeah.
And at this point I find it very, very difficult to tolerate wasted discussion and time, because it takes away from our runway of actually fixing things. And people that are absolutely so obsessed here in Canada, and Canada has a unique and different distinction from the US, and as much as we want to import through different discussions American politics, American political issues, their voting, the reason they steal the vote there is because the votes matter there. The votes mean something in America. They mean that the record of the law will be upheld. That's what votes represent in America. Whereas Canada, our votes here represent which grifter or pirate we're going to get, because nothing is laid in law. It's all pseudo, it's all fraud, it's all fake. And here's the thing that is starting to become an agitator for me, is people want to and I trigger everybody because it doesn't matter which political figure that you want to support and endorse. It's all just playing part of the charade. Nobody is going to save us because there is no law to adhere them to. It's not just that the police won't do anything or anybody won't do anything. It's because they don't have to, because we haven't done our civic responsibility to seat a de jure country. And so even as much as Max Bernier says the right things right now, he's jumping on the wave of rage because people have figured out that the Conservative Party, if they don't change their ways, they are going to remain the uniparty, and they are going to follow the exact same path that they're already on the same to-do list for. By that, I mean the immigration and the UNSDA, and nobody can tell me that Pierre isn't dodging specific questions, doing different things. But Max, the question has to be posed, and he hasn't answered this one yet. Will he invoke constitutional conventions to seat a de jure Canada? He will say no. I guarantee he will say no.
Yeah, and this
And
this
that's
kind of
the only cure button. It is literally the only cure button is to seat a lawful country. And what's going to mess people up is Quebec's got it figured out. They already know. And they're going to beat the rest of the country to the punch on that. And then everybody's going to be going, now what do we do to fix it? Because we cannot continue to play these wedge issue games and these theater and all of our energy and resources to absolutely redundant efforts that are, stupid chasing stupider in a lot of cases. Their hearts are in the right places, but it's tipping at windmills at every level. And it hurts me to see Canadians having the life sucked out of them, but by every political grifter that promises hope and change, but yet will not stand for setting Canada free as a free nation. Why? Because all of the debt that every single one of them has helped incur in politics in their careers, they will be responsible for. That is called odious debt, the debt of the criminal. That goes with them the instant we move to constitutional conventions. And Canadians themselves, outside of politics, would be absolutely debt-free. So this is why there isn't a single politician on the freaking face of this country that will actually speak the truth to Canadians. And neither will 99% of the people in this so-called influencer and media space that are supposed to be working hard for the people and the freedom. This is what I find really frustrating. Yeah, it wouldn't be a Friday night if Wayne didn't end up out in the weeds on a rant. But because I guess it angers me because I know what the politicians will say, because I've asked enough of them to myself, and they say the exact same thing. They laugh and they say, no, we don't have to, because we rule through implied consent. What that means, that implied consent is not enough of us dissent.
Yeah, no, I agree. And this is kind of why the three options that we have, right, which is submission, revolution, or renaissance, we're really running out of time for renaissance. Like, I've believed this stuff for a long time, but even I've been silent because what am I going to do? I'm nobody, right? And so the bigger the problem that you face, the more people and the more knowledge and the more things are required to fix that problem, whatever it is, right? Because it's a bigger problem, right? The only way that you can do that is by organizing people at a local level to get up and up and up into the level that you can do something. That's why political parties were formed, so you could get people cohesive enough to do something, anything, right? I missed that. Can you pull that up again?
Sorry, Stephen, I love you. You are such a good-hearted warrior. I know Stephen personally. He's always got the biggest smile on his face, even when Antifa beats him up and breaks his bones. But yeah, good to see you're still. That is the Canadian identity that Trudeau says we don't have. That man lives it. He's a walking example of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, and like every time Trudeau mentions I'm working for Canadians, like, how can you lie bold-faced like that and get no pushback? This guy is the most useless, incompetent, dumb, malicious piece of garbage we've ever had running our country in our history, right? And to say that I'm working for Canada as you've literally destroyed the economy and our rights and freedoms, like, what are you working for? Like, how does nobody push back on it? It's just, I'm just so sick of listening to these stupid people say stupid stuff, man.
It's literally, it's a hybrid. People want to try and pigeonhole it into one thing or the other, and it's to me, I see it as a hybrid of, ineptocracy. They want us to believe that they are, just dummies, and it's corporatocracy. So we literally have foreign unelected entities that have created literally fascism by the book through public-private partnerships and placed their idiots that they have infiltrated because they have groomed and PR'd them all the way to the top. And that, interesting thing that we uncovered last night, Bryce, I don't know if you've seen the interview between Neil Oliver and Whitney Webb. We did a watch party on that last night. It was absolutely phenomenal. The world at large is finally starting to recognize, and through the work that we've been doing, so our community is still a bit ahead on the intel curve on that compared to others out there. But she talked about Mark Carney and his influence with the drug kings of the world and what he's fixed, and his involvement in this treason against Canada. And she talked about the Nexium guys, the Bronfmans, and now we're on to the Thompsons. So we've literally identified 3 of the world's top 15 psychopathic, genocidal, what do they call it? The eugenics elite that are funding and paying for the propaganda, the censorship, and the murder around the world. So we're getting deeper to the heart and core of the cabal, and a whole bunch of that uses Canada for cottage country, and some of the talking heads outside of Canada are finally starting to give these evil swamp creatures the recognition due.
Yeah. There's a reckoning coming regardless of where you are on this planet. Like, there's nobody that's going to escape this. You cannot break all of the institutions of the time, which has happened dozens of times throughout history, and it not affect people, right? There's a reckoning coming, right? Regardless of where you are, right? What happens in that reckoning and who gets reckoned and what's the reckoning after the reckoning happens, right? That's what's kind of up in the air right now, right? There's a lot of people waking up. But there's not a lot of people organizing, like even in the freedom community. Like, we've talked to so many people, and there's always some stupid nonsense like, oh, you said the wrong thing and now we're enemies and shit. All this ego, and like nobody can organize. That's like my infinite annoyance with freedom people, which I am one of them, right? But it's like, we can't communicate, we can't organize anything because everybody's got to feel whatever they got to feel, like there's some special Jesus or something. I don't know. Like, because I just want the results, right? Because I'm focused on what are we going to do and how are we going to do it, right? That's my focus, right? And so if the people in our communities can't even organize with the people in their communities, we're screwed. Because keep in mind, like, these are some of the few groups of people that are working in the same direction, trying to get people free, not trying to enslave people. So if the good people, and I've said this a lot too, evil's been organized for centuries. Good people aren't organized at all, right? So we got to fix that shit, or we lose.
100%.
Pretty simple math.
That's why I wrote this document. I probably haven't even told you about it. I kind of wrote this a couple of years ago.
I follow you.
It's pinned to the top of my profile because if we can't find some things to agree upon, then we're going to get destroyed in our petty disagreements. And so it's to me it's kind of a big deal. So I wrote this a couple of years ago from that spirit of heart, and we need to get together on some of this stuff, because if we don't, then at the end of the day, it's up to us. But I wanted to roll back up here. There was a question that I saw that right here from Belinda. It's simple, but yet it's complex. And we tend to try to make things more complex than they need to be. And I say this tongue in cheek when I say we need to pull an Iceland, because that was the last in the living history country that actually did and went through the process that Canada needs to go through. It's a fairly simple process, but it's the well of that discussion has been muddied by every Freeman and strawman and yada yada out there to muddy the well of the discussion and make it far more complex and disturbing to get to the heart of the right information than what it is. But it is simply the same process Iceland did in 2011, or initiated in 2011, is exactly the same process that America went through when they wrote their constitution. They actually wrote their constitution. In 2011, Iceland went to the process of initiating creating their own constitution by the people of the people. The
For the people.
only Yep, the only jurisdiction that is recognized throughout the whole world happens in that jurisdiction. Every single member of our government in Canada knows that Canada never did that. And Quebec, people in Quebec that have had enough of the corruption, are initiating exactly that process. And every single province has the ability to initiate that process. That was basically, when they talk about precedent, setting a precedent, well, the precedent was set in 1931. This was the job of the people to do. Well, oh, wouldn't you know it? We got a Great Depression, market collapse, and right into World War II. Why? Because that is exactly how they stopped us from achieving our sovereign independence. And every single politician in Ottawa knows full well that that is where reality left the people behind, and the politicians have been plundering Canada ever since. But it's a simple process. There is only one website that I am aware of that accurately, legitimately lays out the process, and that's called The Myth is Canada. And so that, in a nutshell, the best answer I can give you, the most accurate, reflective answer. And unless any single politician is regurgitating exactly that process, they are leading you down the garden path, taking advantage and living off of the grift.
And just to tack on a more of a smaller scale answer to that question, because that's the macro, which is like, what do we do with our constitution and our country and our rights and the legal framework of the country that we're in? Yeah, that needs an overhaul. We need essentially what do you call it, a constitutional convention, I think, because Canada is a confederation, right? So we're a confederation of smaller states.
We are ruled as a corporation. Everything that people recognize Canada as and ruled as and by is a corporation. We are slaves to the company. We have never taken control of our own sovereignty.
Right, which is kind of my point, is that, but that's what it's supposed to be. We didn't actually do it, right? So that would be one of the steps that we could take. Be like, hey, we're fully taking the steps, and I'm sure that would be some sort of civil war that the oligarchs would try to push on us for trying to attempt.
Pirates had law and order on their ships too.
Yeah, totally. But to answer that on a more small scale stuff, like the goal of what's happening right now is to seize the means of production. That's right out of the Communist Manifesto, which is the workers need to control everything. Well, that obviously doesn't work. That's never worked. That's never going to work, right? But what does work is small businesses or people that control pieces of the economy, right? So private ownership of a thing that you do is what is capitalism is based on, is that you have private property, you use your skills, assets, and resource to produce something into the economy that you can trade for currency to do what you need to do, and that movement of things in the economy is what the economy is, right? So it's called the velocity of money is the technical term for that. But when that velocity stops, you get the Great Depression, which is what's coming, right? Because they're going to lock down and remove the ability for you to get credit or get cash. And once that stops, you have to pay that interest that's owed on all the existing debt. And if you can't create more debt or new debt to service the old debt, it all collapses, right? It's a Ponzi scheme.
And that's where we are.
That is where we are. And so what I'm saying and why this is important is seizing the means of production that is going to keep you alive. So having a homestead, right? A lot of people are like, hey, I don't got the money. Have the ability to grow food, right? Have the ability to store food, have the ability to can, have the ability to do something useful. Do you have a skill like a mechanic or electrician or something that is important in society that isn't financialized into infinity, right? So marketing probably won't do that good for a variety of reasons, because people are going to look at, because what's happening right now is what's happening in China, right? China's just further along the path than we are. But what happened in China is they were like, hey, everything is collapsing. The real estate dropped 50, 70% in some cases. So their life savings wiped out. They can't take any money out of the bank. So they've got whatever they have on their person is basically what they got. Nobody is spending anything because they're like, not only do I not have a job because I'm losing my job, so I don't have money coming in, but I've got expenses and I've got to save everything that I can. So I'm not going to spend anything on anything that's not vitally important to my life and my family. That's what's coming.
It's literally gonna be the person with the knowledge to go the radages is going to be worth more to society than the person that sells 25 Ferraris a day last year.
Exactly. Right. And like
Right.
our whole economic model is based on growth, right? Growth only happens if you have a growing population. We have a negative population growth right now. And the only reason we have more population because we're importing them from the third world, right? And so if that goes away, the demand for products, the people that typically do the consuming and the creation in society, which is 20 to 40, that number is getting smaller and going down. And the people that are at the top of that pyramid, so usually our population pyramid looks like this, but it looks more like this right now. So when you have people going up that demographics pyramid, you don't have as many people at the bottom, i.e., kids, to replace the people that are going out of the economy at the top. Right? This is what's called a demographic decline. China is in a demographic collapse. And so our whole, I'll just finish this one point, this last point. So our whole economic model is based on that growth, which is breaking down intentionally. They're like, oh, hey, we've got overpopulation, we've got too many people. Well, this is what happens when that breaks down. And so what they're going to do is when that collapses, they're like, hey, we've got a new system for you, boys. Just sign up here, give us all your DNA and all of your freedoms. Don't worry about it. You'll be happy.
We're not going to bother you. We don't care about any of that stuff. It's just convenience. We're just, yeah. And so I'm going to skim through a couple of comments here before we get to the next major point. But Kim says everybody wants to run the show. I would argue that everybody wants their 10% for the big guy from whatever pile it is that they are getting their percentage off of the Ponzi schemes. And the biggest problem is we have no rights, and we need an overhaul of the judicial system. At the end of the day, guys, that both of that comes back to us seating an actual constitution of whatever kind that we want to choose, and enshrining those laws and in a capacity that they cannot take that away from the people.
Can I make a quick comment on that? Because I think this is actually somewhere where we disagree. So from what I've heard from you, you're pretty hard on the like, everybody's an idiot, don't be a part of the system, don't vote, right?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
Oh, okay.
What I'm saying is that is all a part of the charade. And right now, you're not going to turn
Right.
the Titanic on a dime. But here is what's going to happen. The people outside of Quebec, they have no idea what's coming, whereas the people that are in Quebec understand exactly those differences of jurisdiction and law, and they're going to do it. And so at that point in time, every other province and territory in the country is going to have no choice but to address how they want to move forward in what's left of Canada, or do they want their own independence? Because that's where all of that was the big discussion that was supposed to be had in early 1930s, right, when the Depression hit. And of course, when people are starving, they don't want to talk politics. That's again, the nobody's interested in the Ferrari salesman. They want to know who's got the radishes in town. That's the cycle that we're repeating back to, because provinces are seeking their own independence, as Tricia is saying here. And we saw the wackadoodles initially come out with the Wexit crowd and some of that, but they were on to something at that point already. And this is the evolution where we're getting to, is where there are people that have gone through the due diligence and have been getting the right information. And this is what I'm talking about. Until then, we have to do whatever we can to protect ourselves. We still need a political and a governance and a management system, but we have
that we're a part of, that we're not.
And there is a transition process that happens throughout that. We don't just shut the doors of every political establishment. That isn't what happens. So that's, I think that, it's great that you can ask these questions and have, we can disagree about some of those things, because it inevitably keeps pointing us in the same direction at the end of the day. And people need to know there's a transition process. It doesn't just lock the doors, and Canada doesn't just go on pause. As Iceland did, nobody starved to death in 3 days, but understanding that process is where we need our politicians to be at, because they're going to get blindsided if they're not talking about it, because it is happening, whether one province or the other likes it or not. So that's, some of those things that I just want people to be aware of. We have no choice. We have to keep moving forward. But
absolutely.
Right. There's big traps being set. And this is part of why the relationship between America and Canada is unique and different because, as I said before, their laws are enshrined in their constitution, and Americans don't need to look at the fact at Canada and say, "Oh, we have to save Canada." No, Canada is capable of fighting for itself. We've got America's six at this point, but our enemy here in Canada is the massive ambush that the international collective enemies of the West are nurturing, feeding, and building up here in Canada through this migration invasion, because nobody can tell me that these are all people that are just coming to Canada for a better life. This is part of a much deeper, darker, danker agenda under the human trafficking auspices of the United Nations.
Yeah. So I'm very much of the mind that you can't cede the territory to the enemy, right? And if everybody just decides that, hey, the system's corrupt and I'm not going to vote as a protest, well, your protest means that the enemies win, right? So yes, I do agree that idiots on all sides and there's corruption on all sides, but that's why it kind of comes down to the old question of, can you change the system from within and move it away from the idiots, or do you have to burn it down and restart, right? Because the option that I am in favor for is fixing all of the problems and kicking out the idiots. If that doesn't work, the only other thing is Bangladesh, and we burn down Parliament or something. I'm not saying that I'm going to do that.
I'm so glad you said that.
Nobody mistake my words. That is not something I'm in favor for. However, that's what happens when you push people to the edge and you try to steal them and destroy their families. So I don't want that to happen.
We're seeing two steps of the same direction happening between where the UK is at now and where Bangladesh is right now. That's two steps on the same path. And UK is one step behind Bangladesh. And I'm glad you that statement you said, you're of the firm believer if you do not cede territory to the enemy. This is exactly what we are doing right now when every major intersection and artery is plugged off with people, with men in the streets disrupting in prayer when they have all of the mosques in the world to go and pray in. That our tolerance of this is ceding our territory to them. That is a display of dominance, and this is where if we don't fix the systems, and there's different ways that we can fix the systems. A lot of people are they want to detonate and blow it up. That isn't the solution. Right. Mm-hmm. But we have to embrace it, one baby step at a time. And you're right. We have to take it back through community responsibility and community building and all of those things and understanding the skills. And this some great other comments up here.
None of this works if we're an organized group of people that have strong communities. It just doesn't work. So that's why they're trying to divide us, because they know they can't roll out their bullshit if we're strong and organized.
100%. And this is where that organization, not everybody has the same thing to give. We don't need or want everything. We need people that have different skills in different ways that can find ways to. The next comment here, Little Farmer, 100% correct. People have to barter with their skills.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So the biggest and one of the most important skills that you can go and get right now for very low cost is medical. First aid skills are a very uncommon skill. But if any community that you are a part of, if you have first aid skills, you are a valuable person, right? Because think about what's happened with our medical system, right? If that medical system stops working, where are you going to get medical attention, right? And the number of people that is probably very low that have those skills. So be one of those people. So if there's nothing else that you got from today and you're like, hey, I got to go get some sort of skill, get first aid. That is one very important skill that you can put infinite amounts of time into, and it will always be valuable because somebody is always going to get hurt for something. So that's a really valuable skill that you can go get fairly easily.
I wanted to address this one here. I think that means, does Premier Leadership Reviews work to change the system? What it does is that is the only time of year where those people actually are listening to which direction the political winds go. But I don't put a single faith in any single one of them that actually is going to do what they say they're going to do. But that is where they will make the promises. And at that point, it's up to everybody to not sit down on the couch and wait for them to fulfill those promises. When they make those promises, you say, okay, now I'm going to stand here and watch. Everybody says, now I'm going to stand here and watch, and fact checked every step of the way. So in those capacities, if we're all willing to get up and do the work, absolutely, Premier Reviews can make a difference on what's going on. So,
well, and that's why you should be part of your local organization, local community. Like, silence is compliance. If you don't do anything, you don't say anything, they're going to listen to the vocal minority of morons that want, transvestites and open borders and all the other dumb shit that these idiots are saying. Like, you got to understand, right? The communist far left, because this is what they are. They're all uniform across all of the Western world. They all say the same shit. They all do the same shit. They all think the same shit. And it's all garbage. They don't do math. They don't do critical thinking. They don't care about other people. It's a death cult. These people are just dumb, right? And so you have to counterbalance that with something. What are you going to counterbalance that with? Freedom, family, truth, honesty, all of this
faith,
different
family, and
stuff.
freedom. Faith,
Exactly,
family, and
all of the good stuff. But if you don't say that loudly and proudly, all people hear is the other morons on the other end of the spectrum, right? Like, because the way that I explain politics to people is the spectrum isn't like this; it's like this. Most people are at the top, right? And authoritarianism is down here. It's all the same, right? We all have people that we care about. We all live in a system together that is supposed to be for our collective benefit, right? I'm supposed to have individual freedoms that I use to navigate the system as an individual, but I still belong to the collective of our society and our civilization. And what they're doing is trying to control the threads that allow us to transact and deal with people within that system, right? That's how the system is being locked down against us.
I want to hit a couple of comments here because people are getting a little bit emotional, and I don't want that to happen. We're here in good company. But Lo and Arnie, what if I told you we've been in World War III for 4 years? I would return that with go back to 2020, 2021, and find my interview with Rich Higgins where we talked about unrestricted warfare that we were in. They killed him not shortly after that. So yeah, we know that we've been in warfare for a long time. But this is a comment I wanted to say, Stonely. Nah, I say blow it up. It's beyond repair. You know what? I'm glad you're here, because if you stick around a little bit longer, you'll understand that it's not necessarily as blown up as what it is. Catch a couple of our shows like last night. Go back and watch last night's show. That feeling that you have is absolutely manifested, created, manufactured, and it's a part of what they do to create manufactured color revolutions, is having people feel isolated, demoralized, and angry until we end up in a place like Britain. And I think Canadians are better, stronger, and in far more number than what they want any of us to believe. And it's always darkest before the dawn. So Stonely, stick around for a little while, because we're starting to get strong and organized as Sandy. There's some great stuff going on, guys, and we don't spend enough time looking at some of the wins and the victories. I try to every Monday night is our From the Roots show, and I bring up a ton of victories. So maybe come check in on that one next Monday, Stonely, and you'll feel a little bit better about things. We have to hold the feet to the fire. Yes, Summer, we have to do it before we give them the damn chair. That's after we give them the chair, then it's too late. Then it's like Kamala. I'm gonna do the things in after you vote me in next time that I can do right now, but I'm not doing.
Exactly.
Right?
These people are so dumb. It's like I've probably been arguing about this stuff for like 30 years, and I was a kid 30 years ago. So like I've been arguing about this stuff forever. And the thing that bothers me the most about political discourse is there's never math attached to it. There's never reality. There's never facts attached to it. Everybody's like, oh, it's disinformation. You're lying about this and that. Yeah. But when you're saying, hey, we should do this, right, to achieve this goal, you should be able to very easily and eloquently state and support whatever you're saying with facts and data that support that, right? And all of these like low tier, low IQ, no talent losers that are running the show right now, yeah, they're so dumb. All they can say, like Justin Trudeau is a perfect example of low tier moron, because all he says, "Oh, I'm working hard for Canadians. I'm just such a good guy doing good stuff for Canada," as he burns the place down. No data,
Yeah.
no examples, no nothing. And all they can talk about is $10 dental care as they're like literally detonating the economy. Like,
Yeah.
it's so
100%.
stupid, man.
So, Stefan, I go a step further. It's not just fear porn. It's they're mercenaries. They're paid to destroy lives
Yeah.
and people. And people in the chat, if somebody's upset, don't let them get under your skin. I've got a uh, pretty good eye on the chats that go on, and I want people to come here and not necessarily be 100% in opinion, and to disagree with us, because then I get the opportunity to deliver, maybe some more accurate information. I can use those as teaching moments. So if somebody comes in here and they don't agree, don't cancel them. I'll do that if necessary. Let me have my fun and talk about it. That's ultimately, at the end of the day, what we're here for. So um awesome stuff, guys. Love to see all of the engagement and interaction. Please don't forget to give this a share. We go through the work to gather the things to separate the noise from the news and bring this to you, but it still depends on you guys to get it out there, because we are so good. Our government spends extra to make sure that you don't get to see it and hear it, what's going on. So awesome stuff. Keep it up. Keep it up. So, last thoughts before we close off here tonight, Bryce?
Yeah, I didn't really cover this in the last couple, but I feel it's really important to mention this now for everybody. So this is kind of a PSA. So imagine, if you will, going back 3 years ago, right? We just started with COVID. Putin hadn't invaded yet, right? And we were looking at the world as fairly, I don't want to call it safe per se, but definitely not at a heightened level of warfare. So compare 4 years ago to now. We've got multiple like color revolutions. So Bangladesh is now in basically a revolution. England is now a civil war, more or less. We've got invasions all across Europe. We've got a war in Ukraine. We've got a war burgeoning in China, Taiwan and China. There's another big one that's about to happen with Iran. Venezuela is up in smoke, basically, and they're having a revolution because the socialist dictator is off his rocker. And Canada and the West are dealing with a communist takeover. And during all of this, NATO invaded Russia. NATO invaded Russia. NATO has invaded Russia. Okay. I don't know how more explicitly I can eloquently state how much of a war we are now in. Right. And so, yeah, I'll finish my point after.
Great point. Because I'm actually I'm just waiting to hear back on what day exactly it's going to be, but I've got an expert on the subject matter coming on in the next couple of days to talk about exactly all of that specific kind of insanity. And I'll tell you what, there are few people that don't have more of a thumb on the pulse of that level of insanity than Michael Yon. So just to let everybody know that he is coming on in the next couple of days as soon as we can wiggle out a day. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I was already looking for an expert on the subject matter at heart. I've got some great shows coming up next week, guys. Got a brand new whistleblower coming up on some stuff that's going to be very disturbing. To watch out for that, and a lawyer suing Canada in human rights court in France, a former Canadian lawyer. So some crazy stuff coming up next week.
Awesome. Yeah, just so I can finish the point really quick. So the reason that I brought all that stuff up is because I think everybody really has to get this in their mind, that this is now a battle for your survival, for the survival of your family, your community, your country, your civilization, wherever you are. It really doesn't matter where it is, because it's all a battle we're all fighting the same battle. We're all on the same team if you care about freedom and humanity, right? Anybody that does not want to be a slave, you're on a team. It's called team humanity, right? And you have to secure your life before you can do anything else. So food, protection, water, shelter, kind of all of the good stuff, right? And like, I don't even include gold and silver in that, because you're talking about the survival. Gold and silver is something beyond that, right? And this war, right, the war for humanity's next phase, next survival, we can either have a golden age or a dark age. And the dark age is going to be the absolute most horrific, horrendous thing beyond what you can imagine. I've seen so much that I can envision it quite well, and I don't like that world, and I don't want to live in that world. I don't want you to live in that world. So if you don't want to live in that world, and I know you don't, prepare for war, because that's what's happening.
Yeah, awesome stuff. All right, thank you, sir. And we'll do it again next week. All right, guys. Another drink from the fire hose. Yes, Carly Simon, that is Glorraine. She's we're getting together on Monday for to do a recording. My dashboard went kind of wonky on me. A couple other comments here. Michael Leon is great. Yeah, I've talked to him. I've listened to some of his interviews with Jim Ferguson over at Freedom Train International. Solid Gold on Info. Yeah, absolutely amazing guy. This was the one I wanted to get back to here. Putin is tremendous restraint, but for how much longer? And this is a going concern when I see in the news today that Ottawa, our little Muppet in charge, the Tater Tot, has given permission, the green light, to use a longer or medium range missiles going into the core of Russia. Like, he's just like, are you stupid? And the answer can unequivocally be yes. But at the end of the day, it's never over till it's over, right? I worked in international elite level sports, in multitudes of them. I worked in elite kickboxing, elite Muay Thai, and elite boxing, WBC level and UFC level. And I'll tell you what the difference between a champion and a could have been is champions get up even when they can't. And until the lights go out for humanity, I'm going to be standing here smiling, say, here, hold my beer. We have got another lesson and another rounds to go before this is all over. And I hope that everybody else gets that kind of inspiration once in a while. And if not, get deeper plugged into your community, because this is go time. Get prepared for go time. So I love you all. Stay mighty and strong, my fellow patriots and hostages. And next week's going to be a big week. Look forward to seeing you there. And as mentioned earlier, there'll be a link here below. Check on the Substack. All the good stuff is there the day after. But we'll see you again on Monday.
In times of global instability, soaring inflation and massive debt, gold and silver have proven to be unshakable pillars of wealth. New World Precious Metals, based in Calgary, Canada, is a leading international brokerage. We offer an easy, secure and cost-effective platform for investing in gold and silver, including our international wholesale program and registered retirement savings accounts. Protect your money outside traditional banking with our physical precious metals, privately vaulted outside the banking system, at secure, insured exchanges worldwide. Gold and silver have been trusted assets for generations, with current projections indicating high returns. And with unprecedented demand from governments, banks and investors, there are now shortages. Precious metals thrive during inflation, geopolitical instability, and currency devaluation. Sound familiar? Now is the time to invest in gold and silver, whether in your international investment account or by transferring registered retirement savings accounts. Experience the security of physical precious metals, combining the safety of physical assets with the flexibility of being like your own bank, offering instant liquidity and a financed line of credit. With precious metals on the rise, don't miss this generational opportunity to protect your wealth. At New World Precious Metals, we ensure your wealth meets its potential. Contact us today and our personal brokers will guide you every step of the way.